The movie began with the appearance of a vulture suddenly grabbed by Riddick. After even the Chronicle, Riddick still managed to survive, even though he kept getting targeted by his enemies. Riddick slowly climbed among the rubble to the spring just to quench his thirst. But Riddick realized that everything on this planet was no longer fit for consumption, including water. Exhausted, Riddick fell asleep for a while. When he woke, he tried fixing his broken leg by inserting it between two large stones. Unfortunately, Riddick's screams attracted some wild animals. Riddick quickly threw himself into a puddle to avoid them. Holding his breath, he continued to stay in the water until the animals finally left. Riddick then got out, and he was about to rest again, but a jackal beast was suddenly right behind him and then attacked Riddick. Finally, Riddick managed to make the animal go away using his equipment. After that, he covered the wound on his leg with makeshift equipment, and now Riddick decided to get out of that area. Riddick then arrived at a cave. Here he found water that was still fresh to drink. Riddick observed his surroundings. Soon Riddick again heard jackal beasts' voices approaching the place. But when approaching the cave, the animals were suddenly attacked by several creatures that appeared from the water. As a result, one jackal beast died while the others ran away in fear. When Riddick intended to leave, apparently, the same creature also appeared right behind him. Fortunately, Riddick managed to kill it using bones. He then walked back and arrived at a location where there was a kind of monument which Riddick then used to rest. While asleep, Riddick recalled his past before ending up on this barren planet. He was a Lord Marshal of the Necromonger fleet. The Necromonger was a religious empire whose members were part of the 4 oldest races. All members were very diligent and strict in spreading neutralism. They were a group of fanatics who believed that all forms of life were contrary to the universe's state. The group intended to convert or kill all beings who would oppose them. Lord Marshal's job was to wage war on anyone who opposed the Necromonger. At that time, Riddick was looking for the existence of a planet called Planet Fury. Riddick has become uneasy as Lord Marshal of the Necromonger fleet. The reason was that Riddick did not fully agree with the ideology embraced by Necromonger. Riddick felt that some people from the Necromonger did not like Riddick's position as Lord Marshal. His hunch was correct because one of the girls who used to accompany him suddenly told him that she heard suspicious sounds outside the room. When Riddick tried to check the room, the girl immediately stabbed him from behind. Fortunately, Riddick was immune, and the woman was stabbed to death. After that, the Necromonger commander Vako entered the room and asked what had happened. But Riddick asked back, "Who ordered this woman?" After the latest attempt on his life, Riddick realized that anyone could be the mastermind. Riddick then stood up, and Commander Vaku saw the blood marks from the stab wounds received by Riddick. Riddick makes a deal with Commander Vako to tell him the location of Furia and a ship to take him there in exchange for Vako succeeding him as the next Lord Marshal so that he can achieve transcendence. Led by Vako's aide, Crone, Riddick and a group of Necromongers arrived at a remote planet. It turned out that this was not the planet Furia. They deliberately sent Riddick to the planet so that he could be finished off. Realizing that it was not Furia, Riddick killed most of his escort when they attempted to assassinate him. Since Crone fired, his weapon caused a landslide and buried Riddick alive. In fact, Riddick was not dead. As we saw in the beginning, Riddick continued to fight while thinking about how to get his revenge. At one point, Riddick caught an orphan jackal beast pup and fed it. Riddick did not know whether the animal would be eaten or kept as a pet. As Riddick climbed the cliff, he accidentally saw a settlement in the distance, but the only passage through was impeded by several muddy pools infested with mud demons. Riddick then caught one of the more miniature mud monsters. Then he took out the poison possessed by the creature. Riddick first tested it on a little jackal beast pup because nothing happened. Riddick then began to experiment on herself with the monster's poison. He began injecting himself with mud demon venom to build immunity, constructed improvised melee weapons, and raised and trained an orphan jackal beast pup. And after fainting many times, Riddick finally managed to form immunity to the poison. Riddick could defeat one monster and suddenly appeared again with a larger size. Fortunately, thanks to the abilities taken, Riddick could pass the mud demons. Together with his pet, Riddick traveled a long way. The settlement that looked close earlier turned out to be far away. After a long journey, Riddick finally found a building close to where he was. From inside the building, Riddick took everything, including food and supplies. When he was resting, the rain suddenly came. Riddick noticed a series of approaching storms and concluded they would unleash an unidentified threat. Inside the station, Riddick turned on a scanning device that automatically activated an emergency beacon at the station. The signal broadcast his identity to mercenary groups within the area. Riddick was now a fugitive. Riddick quickly went and hid to see who was coming. It turned out that two mercenary ships responded to the signal. The first was led by violent and unstable Santana, with second-in-command Diaz, Preacher Luna, and hunters Falco, Rubio, Vargas, and Nunez. Previously, they had released the female prisoner who was on their plane. The reason was that Santana had obtained a new and more expensive fugitive, Riddick. However, when the female prisoner was released, Santana shot her instead. Then Riddick left them a message promising they would all die unless they left one of their ships and departed the planet on the other. When Santana saw the message, he said Riddick should be able to count because they came using only one ship. The second is a team of professional mercenaries, leader Colonel Johns, second-in-command and marksman Dahl, tracker Larkspur, and gunner Moss. With the second team's arrival, Riddick knew it wasn't just one ship. The two teams did not get along. They even had different plans to capture Riddick. However, these two teams were one voice when they agreed to unplug the power source of their respective ships. They deliberately did to be noticed later. Meanwhile, Riddick was preparing to carry out the action. Two of Santana's subordinates were seen keeping watch. Santana detected movement, but it was just a jackal beast. Apparently, it was part of Riddick's plan to disrupt the frequency of Santana's team's equipment. Meanwhile, the second team found several items missing from the station. Johns then asked Santana if they had checked all parts of this place to ensure there were no traps that Riddick could have set. Santana was shocked when her subordinate Rubio stepped on something, but then he calmed down when he learned it was just a piece of junk. Not long after that, Rubio really stepped on a trap. Santana shouted to Rubio not to move, but Rubio kept moving until, finally, his head was also hit by a surprise. Everyone was now on full alert. The second team was ordered to stay as deep as the station. They did not want to interfere until the first team asked for help. After that, two more people were hit. Rubio, Nunez, and Falco are killed by Riddick during the first night, forcing a reluctant Santana to cooperate with Johns' team. Santana had no other choice. There was tension, but Johns finally agreed to join. Johns only wanted to get Riddick alive, and after getting what he wanted, Santana could get Riddick afterward. After that, they started the hunt. Johns then found a jackal beast which was thought to be the same animal that appeared last night. Johns ordered Dahl to shoot it using a bullet coated with barium that could make the ammunition traceable once it hit its target. When it hit the animal, they immediately followed it using a motorbike that could fly. Riddick deliberately lured them out so that he could easily absorb into the station to steal the power nodes. Long story short, when Riddick sneaked in, he saw Santana and Dahl fighting. Riddick wrote something in the power node storage cabinet during your fight. Johns and his men have now also returned. Riddick deliberately did this so that they thought that the power nodes had been stolen, even though the key was still tied around Santana's neck. It made them feel that maybe Riddick secretly took the key, changed the code, and returned it without Santana's knowledge. That's not possible. Finally, they tried again to open the cupboard and found that the power nodes were still there. This was what Riddick wanted. The cupboard opened unattended, and Riddick easily stole the power nodes from each ship. Quickly, Johns ordered his men to close all entrances to their boats. He did not want Riddick to knowingly enter and steal it, but unexpectedly, Riddick stole power nodes from each team's ships and approached Johns and Santana to strike a deal for their return. When they met, Johns said that he only wanted to know about what happened on a planet 10 years ago. Riddick did not tell him clearly, but certainly, at this time, he just wanted to get off this planet. Riddick could have continued to kill them one by one, but he preferred to leave here immediately because a more sinister danger would appear along with the coming storm soon. Therefore, he would leave one power node here to them, while the other one would be used to use one of the ships. However, the conversation became an ambush as Santana tried to shoot Riddick. Riddick's jackal beast suddenly appeared and saved Riddick. Dahl shot Riddick with several rounds of horse tranquilizer. Finally, Riddick fell and passed out. Also, Riddick's jackal beast was shot and killed by Santana. Now Riddick was a prisoner. Johns interrogated Riddick about the fate of his son, William, who disappeared when delivering Riddick back to prison 10 years ago. But Riddick was apparently reluctant to give the answers Johns wanted. Riddick then told Santana if Riddick was released later, Santana would be the first person he would kill within 5 seconds using his own machete. After that, Riddick told Dahl to see what was happening outside and described what he saw to Riddick. And sure enough, soon, the storm reached the station. Riddick's threat was not without reason. Suddenly, thousands of mud demons emerged from hibernation underground, awakened by the rainwater, and besieged the station, killing Larkspur and Moss. Seeing that, Riddick laughed at them. He also even said that within 60 seconds, the chain binding him would be released, and together, they would get rid of the creatures, or they would fall prey to the monsters outside. Inevitably, John agreed to release Riddick to locate the hidden power cells, but Santana did not want that to happen. Santana attempts to kill Riddick because he is worth more dead than alive. As Riddick promised earlier, he would finish Santana in 5 seconds. Using only 1 foot, Riddick decapitated Santana with his own machete. The group then released Riddick on the condition he retrieved the nodes that Riddick kept somewhere, and each party got a ship. They fight their way to the vessel. In this incident, Vargas was killed by the deadly poison of the mud monster. Then, Johns, Diaz, and Riddick leave the ship together on a hoverbikes to retrieve the power nodes. On the way, Diaz suddenly crashed his motorbike into John, who then caused John to fall, but fortunately, Riddick immediately came and picked up John. They'd arrived at the place where Riddick hid the power node. Here, Riddick revealed that he did not kill John's son, who was an addict. Riddick even said William was willing to sacrifice a child as bait. When they were chatting, suddenly Diaz tried to kill John and also Riddick, but Riddick resisted and then killed him. Unfortunately, when Diaz was lying down, he fired his weapon, which caused their vehicle to be badly damaged, forcing them to walk on foot while fending off the seemingly endless hordes of mud monsters. Riddick had to be seriously injured due to being stabbed by one of the mud monsters. Johns had thrown the bomb to give time to save Riddick, but he then changed his mind and decided to leave Riddick alone. Riddick began to fight desperately against the endless mud monsters. He continued to retreat while climbing the stone tower, but right when his fate would end tragically, suddenly, Johns arrived with a ship that had been successfully revived. Johns shot the creatures while Dahl went down to save Riddick. After that incident, Riddick got his own ship to leave. Johns had asked Riddick where he was going. Apparently, Riddick returned to his place of origin, Helion Prime, where Riddick went to see Commander Crone and asked about Vako's whereabouts. Crone replied that Vaku had kept his promise because he was a true necromonger. After killing Crone, Riddick asked the maid, but the maid gave an ambiguous answer that Vako could be dead and alive. Riddick then walked and looked towards the vast galaxy, and from there, a word was heard, which was transcendence. So, what do you think about this movie? Leave it in the comments below, and if you liked the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you in the next video.